Hello, in this presentation we shall see how to simplify exponents containing integer examples. Let's start with an example. Let's take a simple example here, and the example here is, let's say we have 3 raised to the power of 4. So in here we will break it down into simple steps. Step number 1, we want to recognize the base term and we want to recognize the exponential term. The base term here is 3 and the exponential term here is 4. Step number 2. In step number 2, we'll recall the concept and then apply the concept to this particular problem. What is the concept? The concept here is the base term needs to be repeated the number of times the exponential term is indicating to us. So let's write down the problem. 3 to the power of 4. The base term is 3 and that needs to be repeated 4 times. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Now we simplify the math. We take two numbers at a time. 3 times 3 is 9. Again 3 times 3 is 9. And then 9 times 9 is equal to 81. So therefore 3 raised to the power of 4 is equal to 81, and this is our answer. This is a simple example, but nevertheless it is explaining the concept. The way we apply the concept to this particular problem is explained in this particular problem. Let's take another simple example. Let's say we have -3 raised to the power of 4. This time we have made sure that the negative sign is inside the parenthesis, and we want to make sure if we have a problem of this kind, how do we simplify that? Let's break it down into simple steps. Step number 1, the base term here is -3 and the exponential term here is +4. So in step number 2, we recall the concept and then we apply the concept. What is the concept? The concept is the base term, which is -3, needs to be repeated the number of times given to us in the exponential term, which is equal to 4. So therefore -3 raised to the power of 4 can be written out as -3 times -3 times -3 times -3. And therefore we're going to simplify the math. -3 times -3 is +9. Again, -3 times -3 is +9. So we're going to multiply these two numbers, and therefore +9 times +9 is equal to +81. Therefore -3 raised to the power of 4 is equal to 81, and this is our answer. This is where we want to leave it. Let's take another simple example, and in this case now, let's put the negative sign outside of the parenthesis, negative of 3 raised to the power of 3, like that, right? And now we'll do the same thing. We will try to recognize what the base term is, we'll try to recognize what the exponential term is, and then we'll try to simplify the math and see what we get. Step number 1. Recognize the base term and the exponential term. The base term here is 3. Make sure that the negative sign is outside of the parenthesis, and therefore the negative will not be raised to the power of 3. The base term here is 3. Only 3 will be raised to that exponential number, which is equal to 3. So therefore in step number 2, we recall the concept and apply it. The concept is the base term needs to be repeated the number of times the exponential term is indicating to us. We'll write down the problem. Negative of 3 to the power of 3. We keep the negative sign outside. Just multiply the base term 3 times. 3 times 3 times 3, like that. So we keep the negative sign and then simplify the math. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3. Therefore we keep the negative sign. 9 times 3 is 27. Therefore negative of 3 raised to the power of 3 is equal to -27, and this is how we want to be able to understand how to expand exponents containing integer terms. In my next presentation we shall see how to simplify exponents containing multiple integers.